I've always been quite fond of driving. And by driving, I don't mean commuting to work or running errands. I mean really, truly just driving. Whether it's highways, byways, or side streets, there's something about gliding on the road and listening to music and being alone with your thoughts that is, above all else, surreal, especially at night or in the rain. It's moments like these where you have time to let your mind wander that truly cements driving as one of the greatest activities for me. But above recounting my day, thinking of past memories, future plans, lost loves, what ifs, and what nows, there's one question I find myself pondering above all else when on the road. What the hell is going on with Kentucky Route Zero?
Risking your soul for the things that decay. Oh, if today God should call you away, what would you give in exchange for your soul? What would you give in exchange?
Kentucky Route Zero is a point-and-click adventure game released in 5 acts, with the first being released in 2013 and the ultimate conclusion coming in 2020. It was developed by Cardboard Computer and published by indie magnate Annapurna Interactive, best known for masterpieces like The Outer Wilds and What Remains of Edith Finch. The game itself is mysterious and enigmatic and symbolic and beautiful, which makes talking about it hard, but thinking about it becomes almost addicting. I think Laura Hudson best summarized the game in her Wired review titled The Tragedy and Mystery of the Best Game of the Decade, when she wrote, Kentucky Route Zero has never been a very literal game, which makes it hard to describe in concrete terms, but let's give it a try. Imagine for a moment the next great American novel was created in the 21st century as a point-and-click adventure game. Woven out of Southern Gothic fiction, magical realism, and a techno-mystical understanding of hyper-reality, imagine it is a tragic ghost story about the American dream, where the ghost is the American dream. The tragedy is that it keeps haunting America because it doesn't know that it's dead. Kentucky Route Zero isn't exactly a feel-good game, but it's not really sad either. The soundtrack consists of perfectly melancholy bluegrass and folk, and the dark, minimalistic environments and sets paint an atmosphere of a Kentucky struggling to get by. The game was conceived during the aftermath of the 2008 recession. Its atmosphere was full of sorrow and dread alongside anxiety as to what the future holds. Every character you meet along your adventure is one of the millions of Americans that is one bad day away from going broke. It's easy to write off Kentucky Route Zero as not a game. After all, there's no coins to collect or power-ups to be grabbed or terrorists to be shot. But it is, at the end of the day, a game. In Kentucky Route Zero, you play as Conway, or at least you start the game playing as Conway. He's a washed-up, recovering alcoholic who drives delivery for an antique store in Kentucky, until one day, he gets a job to deliver to an address that doesn't quite exist by all accounts. 5 Dogwood Drive. You click the screen to move him around to talk to people, where you can select dialogue options that affect results of the conversation, but not really the entire story as a whole. There's also a little road trip sequences where you can click on a map to move your van around and encounter curiosities and oddities along the side of the road, each which come with their own dialogue and story and whatnot. Its gameplay may be as minimalistic as its low-poly art style, but similarly to the minimalistic visuals, it's the lack of concrete mechanics and details that make the game so surreal. Surreal. Just like driving at night, surreal is the best way to describe the feeling you get when you're playing Kentucky Route Zero. The game opens with Conway stopping at a curious gas station along the side of the road. He's unable to figure out where he's supposed to go to find the elusive 5 Dogwood Drive. The gas station attendant offers to let you borrow his computer to look for information, but you need to restore power to the building first by flipping the generator in the basement. As you descend into the body of the giant metal horse that makes up the gas station, you see 3 friends, sat at a table playing a card game. You can try to talk to them, but they'll carry on as if you weren't there, completely ignoring you. You encounter Emily, Bill, and Bob a lot throughout your travels. They make up a band called the Bedquilt Ramblers, and they sing the folk music that silhouettes your journey. Emily ignores Conway and talks to Bob. I still don't understand how you win. Ben responds, reading the manual aloud. He says, roll the 20-sided dice for each player and refer to Appendix C, table of psychogeographical anxiety/address correlations. Locate the resulting street address on the road map and move each player to the appropriate location. Emily says, that doesn't help. Bob responds, I don't think you can win. It says on the box it's a tragedy. Flipping the generator is easy. There's no minigame, no puzzle, Conway just does it. You then go back up to talk to the gas station attendant, but he explains that his computer's locked by a password. When you ask him for the password, He'll tell you that he doesn't remember. He usually just feels it out by muscle memory. But he says it's sort of like a short poem, one that really sums it all up. You'll figure it out, just go ahead and try. You then approach the computer, and you're given 3 options for 3 lines of poetry. No matter what you choose, the password will be correct. Myron read, "The stars drop away. It's late. You just breathe road." As you continue on your journey, you meet a colorful cast of characters, each and every one of them weighed down by the dreary atmosphere of poverty and debt. The gas station attendant tells you to talk to an eccentric academic, a woman named Weaver Marquez. You arrive at her house, but something is clearly off. She acts very strange, and she seems to be a ghost. She directs you to the mines, where you meet a TV repair woman named Susan Marquez, her sister. She offers to help you find your way onto the Zero, and the two of you head into the old abandoned mine that is somehow supposed to act as an entrance to the mysterious highway, though how is beyond you. The game then flips perspectives. You now control Susan, and talk to Conway. Susan asks if he believes in ghosts, and Conway responds that he feels haunted himself sometimes. You can then ask what haunts him. He responds, bad decisions, I guess. Wasted youth. The two of you then descend into the mine. Start by trying to fix the busted PA system. You get it fixed, and Shannon asks Conway to test it out, telling him, "Don't be shy, just say something that comes to your head. Tell me a story about something, or what you had for breakfast today." Conway tells the story of when he used to work in roofing, many years back. He had a big job out in Louisville, but the morning of, he was too hungover, and they ran late. Later on, the two of you go back to where you first saw Weaver. There you find a graveyard. Shannon's parents are buried here. This is where the game first touches on 2 of its major reoccurring themes, academia and debt. Shannon tells you her parents were never able to pay off their debt to the company store, a real-life practice where mines would pay miners in scrip, a special currency that could only be spent at the company store, effectively generating unlimited income for the mines and making it impossible for workers to leave. When Shannon's parents died, she inherited that debt, and she's never been able to pay it off. You two then share a conversation. Shannon asks Conway, "So this is where she was?" "Yeah, it makes sense. This is where Weaver and her parents lived. They took out a bunch of loans, had this place built. Do you have any debts?" Conway then responds, saying one of 2 options. He can say that he never really had any collateral, or that he owes some people some apologies. Either way, Weaver will say that he's lucky for that's all that he owes. Shannon then says, "My parents were like that, until the store found a way to get to them. For my dad, it was tokens to run fans and air purifiers, and for my mom, it was canaries. 2 solutions to the same problem, but they sure sounded different." Weaver had debt too. A lot of it. All tuition. Conway then can either ask how she paid it off, in which Shannon will say that she didn't. She had no income. None of them did. Or he can ask, wasn't Weaver some kind of mathematician or something? In which Shannon will say, yeah, she studied some esoteric stuff about something about using math to translate between Spanish and English. Shannon says, I think Weaver eventually put those math skills to work on all the red numbers in the family's checkbook and got a clear sense of just how hopeless their situation was. So she left. I guess she just drove away in the middle of the night. They woke up in the morning and the car was gone. Never came back. Until tonight. Later on in the game, Conway accrues a debt of his own, to the Hard Times Distillery. Not just a monetary debt, but a debt of regret, of longing for what could have been. We learn Conway was in love once, with a woman named Lysette. Lysette had a son, Charlie. The two worked in roofing together. One day, Conway had a job, but he had to call in sick because he was too hungover. Charlie picked up his shift. It was a rainy day. Charlie slipped off the roof and died. Conway blames himself, but Lysette knew that it wasn't his fault. But the love between them died with Charlie. Conway starts drinking again, and as he does, he owes more and more to the distillery. His body is slowly replaced by an orange wireframe skeleton as he loses himself to the company. We then lose control of Conway as a playable character after this. As Conway loses his agency to alcohol and debt, we lose our agency of him as a playable character. The game proudly wears its influences on its sleeve, taking a lot from literature, poetry, and theater. In fact, there are points in the game where it actually becomes poetry and theater, respectively. The game is structured into 5 acts with 5 interludes. The acts contain more traditional gameplay features, while the interludes vary heavily, some containing stage play, while others are structured as a museum exhibit. The Entertainment is a 40-minute, 1-act interlude compatible with a VR headset and sees Conway as a part of a stage production. You are the barfly, but you're also you, the player, and Conway. You have no lines, and your only instruction is to get drunk and watch as the scene progresses, and it's too late for you to intervene. The play receives mixed reviews, but they all rave about how perfectly cast the role of Barfly was. Having a piece of interactive fiction and theater reveals how Kentucky Route Zero uses video games as a tool for narrative storytelling. There's a reason Kentucky Route Zero is a game and not a stage play or a novel. Sure, anyone could put together a play, but video games allow us to take the role of characters and be immersed in the experience like no other. It's easy to draw connections to poetry and literature. The game reeks of Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman or Gary Snyder's Hay for the Horses. Much like a poem, the game implies much more than it explicitly states. It's the gaps in what the game says that entail the most meaning. No game I've ever played has been able to evoke the same level of profound emotion and introspection that I get with Kentucky Route Zero. But the game's reliance on literature and academia doesn't draw it away from its roots. The central plot of one of the later acts sees you go spelunking into Mammoth Cave, a real-life cave system in Kentucky, and the inspiration for the arguably very first text-adventure game, Colossal Cave Adventure, in order to locate a computer program named Xanadu. You can play Xanadu, which is essentially a simplified version of Colossal Cave Adventure, and in it you find another computer, where you play again, and going deeper down the rabbit hole. One of the developers of Kentucky Route Zero said that Xanadu was based off of a memory he had playing Colossal Cave Adventure as a kid with his father. This portion of the game wasn't just inspired by video games, but narrative games, and the memories they create. Unlike any sort of other form of literature or poem or theater, games are able to create their own unique memories because of the interaction and the fun we have playing them. While it may seem like it pulls more from literature and highbrow media, Kentucky Route Zero is not a Conway's twisting and unending search for 5 Dogwood Drive leads him all across Kentucky's surface and subsurface streets. From the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces, a hollowed-out cathedral where gargoyles are replaced with TVs playing endless loops of static, and the 3rd floor and the elevator is simply labeled as bears, to the Hard Times Distillery, where liquor is flavored by the struggle of the workers there, who are all stuck in debt after enjoying the occasional shift drink. No stone is left unturned. But no matter how fantastical or uncanny or depressing the setting is, it's full of real people, with real struggles and real emotions. The world of the Zero may be magic and full of wonder, but it's not an escape. The people there are just the same as they are here, trying to get by. The score of folk, gospel, bluegrass, and blues all accentuate this theme. That kind of music was born out of struggle. A struggle of miners in crushing debt to the company store, a struggle of farmers unsure if the next harvest will be enough to pay the bills, a struggle of factory workers, slaving away for pennies on the dollar. As Americans, we're always told we live in the land of the free, or that anyone can make it here as long as you pull yourself up by the bootstraps. The American dream: go to college, get a well-paying job, buy a house, start a family. Along your journey, you encounter a number of academics. They took the traditional route. They went to college, they got their degree, and where did it leave them? Same place as you. Lost. Homesick for a place that they'd never been. It's not that academia or college is painted in a bad light by the game or that it's seen as useless. It's just that it illustrates that struggle is universal in America, and that going to school won't change that or make you better than anyone else. I think that 5 Dogwood Drive represents this sense of home that we all long for. Weighed down by debt and struggle, it may seem impossible to reach, but we can't help but chase it. Search for it. I know the American dream is out there for me somewhere, and I'll reach it someday. I've just got to keep looking. If I can't find it here, I'll try Kentucky. And as for whether or not Conway ever found his dream at 5 Dogwood Drive, we'll have to play for yourself to find out. Thank you for watching.